Welcome to Fandom Power.
Hey guys, welcome back to Fandom Power presents The Fandalorian. My name is Wes Arscott, and today once again I am joined here in studio by my recording partner, producer, editor, Andy.
Hello.
And once again, for the last time of the season, we got a whole other year. Hank McClocklin, how are you, sir?
Amazing. I don't know if parts of me have ever been better.
Gentlemen, it wasn't that long ago. I think it was, mid-October. We had convened to do a 8-part review series, and this is it. This is week 8. We got on that train, and we rode it to the end of the line, and here we are. And on some level, it does feel like an end of the line. I feel that we got some serious closure on one of the lingering plot threads.
But what a ride.
I know. Huge ride.
I wonder, like, it's all, I mean, there's danglers, but for the most part, it's wrapped up in a bow, right? And it feels like...
It's funny you say that, because I called...
Sort of intentional, and yeah.
When you say wrapped it up with a bow, it's funny because I actually called this the Christmas Miracle episode in my notes.
No, certainly.
Yeah, so it's chapter 16, The Rescue. It's written by Jon Favreau. This one directed by Peyton Reed once again, and oh my god. If you didn't enjoy Peyton Reed's other directing outings on this one, all I got to say to you is, how can you not like this one? There's a directing style here that I think of his work on Ant-Man, and I think this is something completely different. Like, this is on a whole other level from what we've seen from him. And it's like, for me, it's an over-the-moon directorial effort.
He does a few nods to other sci-fi franchises.
Yeah.
You know, we'll come to them organically, but they're timed and done brilliantly. He's actually, he's quite impressive. I kind of want to rewatch some of his other work in a new context.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm very interested to see in what projects he'll do next, and see what other choices he'll make.
Is he attached to the third Ant-Man movie, the Into the Quantum Verse, or whatever it's called, the multiverse?
Maybe I'd have to look that up. Andy, you're a Marvel guy. What do you think?
Don't know for sure.
Okay, well, we'll look it up. The runtime this week, it's 46 minutes and 12 seconds with the recap, or 44:41 without. Our synopsis this week is: The Mandalorian and the child continue their journey through a dangerous galaxy. How ambiguous for such a huge episode, right?
Well, it's you know how good they are at keeping secrets.
Yeah.
Maybe the smaller format is easy, like, benefits that, but these things are always, like, the big films are always broken. They're leaked, they're broken. People pay people that work
months
on the set.
and months in advance.
Fans know where it's being filmed, so they get these obscure photographs, and well, we know the Falcon's in this one,
right?
And so they've been able, like, even though I had read probably 6 months before the premiere of season 1, episode 1, that there was going to be some connections to Yoda's species in this.
Yep.
When I saw that kid in the pram, it blew my mind.
Oh yeah, me too.
You know, and they've been so good at keeping, you know, there's been very few script leaks, very few plot leaks, and most of the beats we anticipated because we're good at our game.
Yeah. We've been very fortunate to, I shouldn't say fortunate. I guess it just speaks maybe to the level of passion that we have for Star Wars as a brand and as a cultural icon, that we are so immersed in all things Star Wars that it's really worked out for our show, that we've, with very little additional research, have been able to make all of these connections. And I don't know, it feels so good to come together on a Saturday and, you know, to hammer this one out and know that we're reaching people who are enjoying it on the level that we are.
It's cool at work. I have a few younger fellas that work for me, and they're not necessarily Star Wars fans, but I'll just, like, instead of listening to loud music and stuff, I'll just throw on the podcast and they'll listen to it and they'll ask me questions and they start to engage it. A couple of them started watching the movies and shows,
Yeah.
and it's kind of wild to watch these things burgeon, if at all, or
Yeah.
maybe they're just tolerating me, but I pay them to do that. So
well, I can't bring this up without, I just want to put a special thanks out to Mikey, to John, and to Vic, who Eric, I know you're out there too, who contact me on a weekly basis after seeing the episode. They see our posts on social media and they listen to our show. So they've it's been fun to talk with them because it's where I get to do a lot of my theorizing. I get to hammer it out with those guys before we come together to do the show. So I just want to say thanks, guys, for helping me work on my show notes. I know you didn't tell you that before, but now you know. So
that's awesome.
Thank
That's
you for
real
that,
cool, man.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, no man is an island.
exactly. So
a moment for Jeremy Bulloch.
yeah,
We lost Boba Fett this week, and it's like, does the universe time these things? I don't know. It's kind of weird, the resurgence of Boba Fett, and maybe some part of him was able to go softly into that good night because
maybe. I know there was a nice tribute from Daniel Logan this week, sharing a photo of the two of them together, and although they never got to work together, Daniel was he made a very affectionate post about, being Star Wars brothers and going to miss him on the convention circuit. And I think that's part about being a Star Wars fan is there's a relatability that it is like a family, and I think that's not just on the cast crew side of things, but we as fans share in these moments deeply. I think you and I, Hank, had actually said, talking about the passing of Carrie Fisher, that she was our princess too, right?
Oh, hell yeah. And yeah, and even the younger fan, like Lauren's a little bit younger than us, and to her, Carrie Fisher was Space Mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
And so we do form these connections, and I say it all the time, man. This is the modern mythology.
It is.
And I often wonder, in ancient Greece, did they realize what they believed in was the mythology of the future? And I can see a place where 1,000 years from now, people believed that wizards could move objects with their minds and had laser swords.
Yeah.
And do you know what I mean? Where it transfers from like movies and stories to a myth thousands of years from now. And that's awesome that we're living in it, and I feel like we're aware of it.
You can't tell me that a lightsaber is not an allegory for Excalibur.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, yeah. So, man, we've already been blabbing away here for a while. I was going to say, do we have any initial thoughts? But I think we've put quite a few of them out there. I'm going to add a couple of points here that I just made. Like I said, this one was the Christmas Miracle episode. And as I said pre-show, I said it to Andy on the way in today, I have never been more happy to be wrong about my theories. So take that for what it is. What about you guys? Anything else you want to
add? I wept like a baby.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man. It was like some sort of weird catharsis or something, or a magic Disney spell.
We should probably take a minute and actually talk about that aspect of the show alone, because if we don't talk about it now, we're going to gush on it later. But like, is there anybody in the room that did not have an outpouring of emotion at that moment in the show?
No, there was emotion.
Yeah, so I take it from the silence that we all had similar. Yeah, I have never been as emotionally charged for a Star Wars thing since, being a kid staring at the Consumers Distributing catalog going, I want that, I want that, I want that.
The closest thing for me was taking my son, who was like at the time, I don't know, 9 or 10 months old, not even a year.
Yeah.
To see the special editions in theaters, and when the crawl came up, and I just got crazy emotional.
Yeah.
Able to share that with him, even though he didn't even know he was there. But you know what I mean? Like, so that was and there's been a few moments, but that was the last time where I was just like, I realized what a crazy big part of my life someone else's intellectual property had become.
Yeah. I think something, I don't think it's a fair stretch to say that something magical happened in this episode that just, we've mentioned before about the redeeming properties and the redeeming qualities of the series and how it's doing for the sequels what Clone Wars did for the prequels. And if that didn't happen this week, like if that wasn't solidified, then I don't know what else could do it. But I mean, again, something magical this week, and we all felt it on a deeply personal level that I think we weren't expecting.
I agree.
Well, let's get into the breakdown and let's go through some of the beats and talk about the highs of the episode, because ordinarily I'd say the highs and lows, but there are really not a lot of lows in this one. Like,
it starts off strong,
super high. Yeah. So we open the episode with a dogfight between Slave One and a Lambda class shuttle. The Lambda is disabled by an ion blast from Slave One.
Pretty good pilots too, because like I've flown the Slave One in the games, and you could take out a shuttle no problem. So those pilots were flying their little tails off, I believe.
I think so too. Really, really liked the characterization of the two pilots. I thought they were exceptionally well done when they get to the little exposition part.
Just before the second one spoke, I thought they were twins.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah.
We see that on board the shuttle, we've got Dr. Pershing.
Mm.
And clearly they're trying to get him back to Moff Gideon's cruiser, because that's where the shuttle is going. At least I think, anyway.
Yeah.
So after the shuttle is disabled with the ion blast, you have this imposing shot of the Slave One passing over the canopy of the Lambda.
Good.
So intimidating, It's almost like, when you're was it the 89? Not the 89, the 98 Godzilla, where Matthew Broderick's standing there and Godzilla comes out of the water.
Oh yeah.
The head raising up out of the water. It's kind of
passes him.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that. Prepare for boarding, and they do board. And Mando walks onto the bridge with his pistol drawn, and there's a bit of a standoff moment between the pilots and our heroes.
And the one pilot's ready to give up.
Yeah, he doesn't want to die. He's very much like, I'm not with them. I don't want to die.
But then the other guy's like a hard stance.
Yeah, so hard.
Die hard Empire guy.
So hard that he shoots his co-pilot in the back.
Right.
And then we have this moment of exposition where, like, if you haven't figured it out by now, in the last 2 seasons of the show, they say with all clarity that Dr. Pershing is a clone engineer. So there you go.
Yeah, and it was all but confirmed before.
Right.
I think you were the first one to spot the patch. That I know and even read about, and it absolutely confirms it with dialogue. So
yeah,
that's a almost bookends, because we caught that second episode
right away.
Yeah.
So there's an exposition piece on how important he is to the movement, and essentially we have this moment where and then Kara steps onto the bridge. And there's this moment of like super, super tense moment between the two of them, because it turns out that this guy was on the Death Star and he starts trash talking Kara.
Oh, it's crazy.
About the destruction of Alderaan.
She tells a joke in the middle of it.
Yeah, she says, which one?
I was on the Death Star, and she's like, which one?
Yeah.
And she does a little smirk, like, and then he's literally, you think you're funny? And
more dropping about
for the belief system of the Empire.
Right. And I mean,
destroying your world is a small price to pay to rid the
galaxy of
terrorism. Like they killed millions of people.
That's right.
And this is all about perspectives again.
Yeah, and we've talked about that before, perspective and fanaticism and what people will go through for what they believe in. And so I mean, if you throw that guy into the last episode, he's a believer too, right?
Hell yeah.
But that goes back and forth a couple of ways, and you can just see like Kara is really struggling with this. And finally, she's had enough, and she shoots him in the face. And I was like, and it's a close-up shot too, right? Like, it just like goes from him basically snarling at her to smoking char and Pershing screaming and clutching his ears because of the blaster shot.
Just
I
grazes
caught a tiny little continuity error. I don't even know continuity, but in the descriptive audio, they say that the blast grazes his cheek, but we clearly see it's scorched his ear.
Yeah. I don't even know if I caught that, to be honest with you. Yeah, so she blasts him in the face. Roll title cards. How's that for an opener?
Man.
We move on and we see Slave One now descending towards a planet that's orbited by 2 moons. Could not come up with a reference for this planet. There was no tells.
Had a Tatooine vibe. Tatooine's got 2 moons. It had that rocky, gray, brown, tan-colored landscape. But then once you get there, it's a lot different on the surface.
Appears that it's an industrial world, and we can see Imperial industrial complexes peppered across the surface. Portion of the buildings, I don't know if you noticed, had a large Imperial logo on them.
Yes.
Slave One descends and lands at a settlement next to a Mandalorian gauntlet fighter, presumably belonging to Bo-Katan. There, Mando and Boba make their way to the cantina, where they find Bo-Katan and Koska Reeves sitting under what appears to be a menu board. The menu board is...
That shot where they walk in together and they're just their helmet, the 2 silhouettes of their helmets are offset. I paused it and I was just like, wow, it's beautiful.
I didn't quite understand. It was like, in the first season 1, episode 1, Mando walks into the cantina and all eyes are on him, and then they all just kind of like go back to what they were doing, like pretend you didn't see him. This one takes it a step farther, and people start clearing out. Just at the sight of the 2 of them walking in, I'm like, really? The 2 of them is enough to provoke? And then it's like,
there's 4.
Well, now there's 4 of them, yeah.
This can't be good. Is this the way they mate?
Yeah. So... just want to point out here, Sasha Banks, you're a liar, lady. You said you were only going to be in 1 episode, but you lied. So
that's fantastic.
There's some intentional misdirection.
I don't mind a little crafty misdirection.
No, in fact, it worked really well for the punchline, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Menu board in Orabesh. What do we got?
I have to open that. I got a bunch of different stuff. The standout for me was the Maelurons.
Fruit.
There's a price beside it. I kind of dabbled in that. I didn't get too far into it. Most of it was blurry, but there's like Andorian tuna or something like that. There's a bunch of. I mean, there was
shack kebabs, Kadu ribs.
Yeah, shack kebabs.
I saw when you sent over
Kadu ribs.
Yeah, Kadu ribs. So Kadu is kind of funny because Kadu are the bipedal beasts that were rode into battle by the Gungans.
Yeah, that's right.
Jar Jar connection.
Yeah, really, eh?
There's a couple of
when I saw Shaq on there, I'm like, that's the same spelling as Shaq T as in Jedi
Shaq
Master.
T, yeah, that was a little scary. Yeah.
Like, is that an intentional like little? But yeah, so essentially, it's a menu board of food items.
Space waffles.
Space waffles. Yes, I'll take my Kadu with a side of space waffles, please. Short stack. Striding up to the table, Mando basically says, "I need your help," and Bo-Katan is really not impressed to see Boba Fett, and there's an exchange there where she's like, well, not all Mandalorians are bounty hunters, and he's like, well, they took the child, and she's like, who did? And Gideon. She's like, okay, but then there's this tense moment between her and Boba and Koska where they really kind of start picking on Boba's lineage about how he's.
She literally says, because he said this armor belonged to my father.
Yeah.
Well, actually, Boba starts it. Boba does start it because she mentions Mandalore, and then he snuffs it. He goes, "Mandalore, the Empire turned Mandalore to glass."
Yes, he does.
She says, "You're a disgrace to the armor." He says, "It's my father's armor," and she says, "Don't you mean your donor?" And that's where it starts to really get heated. It
does. Just want to circle back to the glass comment for a second. We've been trying to speculate what's happened to Mandalore, and I went back and I watched the four or so episodes of Rebels that take place in and around Mandalore, and I mean it was pretty barren in that, but I wouldn't say that it was glass.
No,
so
they describe it as being destroyed by generations of
just nonstop war,
internal wars.
Nothing's been able to grow back.
Right. They all live in domed cities on Mandalore.
But, for Boba to go as far as to say that it was turned to glass, we speculated that maybe, single reactor ignition from the Death Star. Is that a,
it's the fourth version of what people believe.
Yeah.
Because we've seen people believe that it doesn't exist at all, a la Alderaan, and now we've heard it's like turned to glass, which is synonymous with like nuclear destruction. If
Yeah.
you will. We always that city was turned to glass.
Yeah, if you heat sand enough, you get glass.
And Bo-Katan believes it's a place where she could go and plant the dark saber in a stone and rule for the rest of her.
That's
her
right.
Days,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's a lot like what is going on, and you know what? I think we're going to get the answers in a bunch of different ways coming.
I do too. I think we're actually going to get.
Now.
Oh, sorry, one more time.
3 spin-offs now.
3. So is it 3 or is it 2? That's something I want to talk about, but I'm going to save that one for later because I got a theory on that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, this exchange keeps going back and forth, and then Casca gets involved. Or no, she says, I didn't know sidekicks were allowed to talk, which is kind of funny considering that she's the sidekick.
Yeah. And then for me, this was the only little weak moment of the thing, because in my head, Boba just wipes the floor with her. So the fact that she does anything at all,
she goes toe to toe with him.
I know, and then for me, I just was like, I couldn't accept it. I don't know why.
That it was a standoff?
Yeah, perhaps she's an amazing, like, it's because she's the sidekick, so Bo-Katan's got to be even better than her. So if she's equal to, do you know where I'm going with this?
I do.
If she's equal to Boba Fett, then Boba Fett loses to Bo-Katan, and my brain can't accept that. So,
well, that's fair.
But other than that, she did use a jetpack indoors, kind of craftily. So
yeah, and she pulls off a hurricane DDT.
It's true. I guess he wasn't prepared for that. So I'll get okay. And they did throw each other through tables like a chess match.
Yeah,
true.
He pulls out another colloquialism of Star Wars that we've never heard before by saying, "Well, if that isn't the quack to call on the stifling slimy," which I presume is a Star Warsy way of the pot calling the kettle black.
Yep, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a few in this episode.
There are.
There's even more exposition about Boba and his lineage, and he throws out at one point he's like, "Careful, princess," and I'm like, is that a Leia reference there? Like,
it's very as soon as that happened for me, and on the second watch when I was watching it with the wife, I was like, there's a Han Solo reference, but at the same time, she is the Princess of Mandalore, because that was the first words out of my mouth.
Or a Duchess? Is it semantic? Does it matter?
I think it's semantic. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's she's fulfilling the Leia role in terms of who she is to Alderaan, or who she is to Mandalore.
To Mandalore, yeah.
And so and we get the double entendre of the Han Solo line, and I think he says it again later on in the episode, and when we get there again organically, but I think it adds a third layer to it, and I'll explain that.
Okay. So she says, "I've heard your voice 1,000 times before," and he's like, "Well, mine might be the last one you hear." And that's when he and Casca get into that tussle. But afterwards, Bo-Katan breaks it up, and they finally she agrees that she's going to go and help Mando, and for the second time, she puts a condition on, but we get to keep the ship.
He offers though.
Yeah, she's building a fleet.
Yeah, so the last time was back in the Heiress, where they acquired that. The
transport.
Yeah, I can't think of the name of it now. It's not. I can see it. I can visualize it.
Arkansas or
no, the one that drops the 2 TIE fighters. Anyway, she gets a Gozanti freighter.
That's right.
So she's picked that one up now. Now she's basically saying, "I'm going to claim this cruiser as my reward for helping you." And Mando essentially is like, "Yeah, okay."
Well, he suggests it to her.
He does, yeah.
He says, he's got a light cruiser, and you're looking for Mando fleets.
Right.
You can have it.
So there's a point where she beckons him. You should really reconsider, coming with us or joining us.
Yeah, when your mission is done,
right?
Consider joining us.
And he acknowledges. He's like,
yes,
yeah, okay,
yes.
Like he'll consider it.
And even further at the end, just right at the end of the conversation, he says, "I'll do whatever you want as long as you help me get the job."
Right.
Like, he's my only priority. So I think that's what season 3 is going to be going for. It's going to get this Mandalore conclusion.
Yeah, that's
starting to cook.
We're definitely going to get. I think that's what we're building towards anyway, and that's an exciting prospect about how they explore that. Which brings me to a whole other host of questions that I'm going to save for later.
Yep.
There's some exposition about taking back the Darksaber, and then there's this point about she makes a point to tell us that it cannot cut pure Beskar.
Yes.
And I don't know why. I feel like, did we not already establish that when Din fought Ahsoka?
Yeah. Or maybe just to reestablish that the Darksaber is not a lightsaber.
It's a different, a
different type.
Yeah.
I thought it was almost more powerful than a lightsaber in a lot of ways.
Because she's like, it can cut through anything.
Well, even
we've just
except
never
pure
seen
Beskar.
it. We've never seen, the only time we've ever seen it versus a lightsaber is when Kanan is training
Sabine.
And he clearly could tune her because of his skill level.
Yeah.
But that blade was mighty. And I've always got the feeling like that as an individual item, like think D&D.
Yes.
This is a character item, whereas a lightsaber is probably a +3 or
right,
a
like a
+4
generic
weapon,
Yeah.
with skill attached to it. But this thing is an enchanted weapon, if you will.
I'm not sure if it's what the context is, but he makes a point to tell when Kanan Jarrus is actually trying to teach Sabine swordplay. He makes a point to say that it's heavy.
Yes. And that as you become one with it, and
it becomes lighter.
He doesn't even say it as a force kind of thing, although that's the way we interpret it. But like the master would tell a student in actual swordplay, as you become one with the blade, it'll get lighter.
Yeah.
It's going to start to So there is that you can tune into the weapon. It becomes lighter when you gain ability.
Well, as Bo-Katan,
reinforces the fact that it's sort of an enchanted object.
Yeah, that it's definitely something special. And Bo-Katan continues to talk a little bit more about it, and interestingly enough, this is where things start to come together, where like from her previous episode talking about, her zeal, and that's the only way I can describe it, is she has this zeal where she has to get to Gideon. And there's a lot of she speaks in a lot of double speak when it comes to getting to Gideon versus getting to the Darksaber. And that we're going to find out later that there's a difference.
Yes.
But it's this whole double speak where if you didn't pick up on it before, it's kind of showing through here now.
And she's like, Gideon is mine.
Yeah. So, I mean,
she said 3 times she says it in different ways that are just deliberately elusive, so that the first time you watch it, you can just ignore it.
Right.
That it's not specifically about that.
Clearly she wants the Darksaber on her quest to liberate Mandalore, but I almost feel like, is there something sinister there? Is there something a little more ominous underneath about, not only does she want to liberate Mandalore, but is there like, she's sort of gotten on the high horse about like she has to be the ruler.
No power corrupts.
Well, this is what I'm wondering.
And she went from like in her arc in Clone Wars, she's like a lackey to the mercenary boss.
Yeah.
And so she's drank the Kool-Aid, and she's all in that the other members of Mandalore that aren't following Death Watch, or at least following they want to return to that warlike nature of Mandalorians, they're not the real Mandalorians. And then she has a character arc. She grows to accept that Mandalorians are a creed, not necessarily a race. And so that by the time of Rebels, she's accepting off-world Mandalorians, like people from Concord Dawn and stuff, right? And now she's almost got to come to terms with clones.
Yeah.
So it's another level of that. But I do get something nefarious about her.
Yeah.
Like power corrupts.
I'm not saying that she's got ulterior motives, but she might have some ulterior motives, right?
Yeah.
Like
by any means necessary.
This is it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah, very much so.
Exactly.
So
and again, it creates the perspective lines, because our whole junior careers, if you will, with Star Wars, bounty hunters have been the bad guys.
Yeah, right. Absolutely they have. They're that scum and villainy, right? Like that is what we're taught right from the beginning.
So now we've got the sort of Princess of Mandalore trying to liberate her people and her planet.
Yep.
Could be the adversary to the good-natured bounty hunter trying to make his way
any
through
way
the
she
galaxy.
can. Yeah. So here's a question for you. I was going to save it for later, but I'm just going to bring this up now. At the end of that 4-episode arc in Rebels, she had the support of all the assembled clans. Where is her people now?
Yes.
Because I feel like she's very much out on her own, and it's just her and a couple of the Night Owls, and that's it. Right? If she's collecting these ships, where are they going, and who's manning them for her? She's got to have a power base somewhere, but we haven't seen that.
No, I definitely agree. And if another thing is that there's suspiciously no Mandalorian ships at all.
Well, that's what I mean. There's her
in that scene from The Rise of Skywalker, where there's thousands of ships from all over the galaxy come to destroy the Final
that's
Order.
interesting. I never paid attention to that.
There's no gauntlets. There's no Razor Crest. There's no Slave One or any of that at all.
Yeah.
And suggesting that 35 years in the future, there is. And that's another thing. Did you notice? And I was thinking about this the other day too, and I'm sorry I'm sidetracking so much.
Okay.
But in the original trilogy, there's a Mandalorian. He's a single Mandalorian, but it's all we know about Mandalorian armor, and it's Boba Fett, and he's elusive and weird, and we love it. And in the prequel trilogy, there's Jango Fett and the genesis of Boba Fett, but there's still a Mandalorian element. In fact, it becomes super important because they use his DNA to make all the clones.
That's right.
All the clones are ostensibly Mandalorian. We get that Mandalorian war that we read about in the novels when we were kids. The sequels have nothing like that at all.
No, they really don't do that.
One single Mandalorian character. There's a couple shots at it. They're trying to make Zori Bliss cool.
Oh, yeah.
They try to make Phasma cool. Phasma would have been better as a silver Mandalorian.
Yeah, Phasma to me was the Boba Fett of the sequels. Only
crazy dropped ball.
Yeah,
too. I mean,
yeah.
Sorry, that was my rant.
That's okay. We move to another exterior shot of the cantina. Only now the Lambda shuttle is parked with the other ships that are collected there. None of which I could identify because they were just too small. I kind of wondered if maybe the one on the left-hand side might have been the same ship model they used in season 1, the fighter that got blasted in the space station, but I can't be certain.
Oh, yeah.
Cut to an interior of Slave 1 where Pershing is now in shackles, and we're now starting to work out the plan to liberate Grogu from Gideon's light cruiser. So we get a nice schematic, and Bo-Katan sort of lays out the layout of the ship. She says a point about how in the old times that this would be crewed by hundreds of troopers and crew, but that's not the case now. It's only operating with a fraction of the crew, in which Pershing points out that her analysis isn't quite accurate.
And Kara's got a great line here. Oh, finally, an objective opinion.
Yeah.
Really good line.
So Pershing details that they're the complement of Dark Troopers. And yeah, so I guess we were right from the get-go with the cold storage facility.
That's correct.
Yeah, so
we were speculating there might have been an organic element, but we were as soon as we saw them, skinny elbows, skinny waist, we knew they were droids.
And definitely, we'd said phase 3, and he actually says that they're, third stage or whatever it is.
Third generation Dark Troopers.
Yeah, third gen. So there you go, everybody. Phase 3 Dark Troopers for sure.
And they had eliminated the last weak component, which was the organic component.
Human factor.
Yeah.
Droids.
Funny, first a full circle moment, we have the Separatists, the Confederacy with their droid armies, and the Republic was like, can't beat the living, right? Gotta have a clone army because they're better.
That's right.
And now we've gone full circle back to droids again. Anyway, interestingly enough, and you know what? This comes up throughout the episode. It's pervasive, and it's a great, it just, by circumstance, they really had an opportunity here to do this, and I'm now calling when they split the group into 2, where it's Mando by himself and everybody else. Mm-hmm. It's the Spice Girls. It's a whole girl power thing, but it's like
I said 4 girls, 1 Mando.
Well done. I say this in the most loving, reverent, respectful way, that it's the Spice Girls and the whole girl power thing, and it's done way better than that scene in Endgame where they force all the women together for that hero shot.
This doesn't feel contrived to
not
me
at all. It's completely organic.
And I even ask my friends that are of different colors and different beliefs and stuff.
Sure.
Does any of this stuff feel like pandering to you? Because if you were pandering to me, I wouldn't want that. I'd want it to be genuine.
Yeah.
And so this feels really genuine to me.
Yeah, me too. So the plan is that the Spice Girls will clear the landing bay and draw any of the forces away from the shuttle, which would allow Mando to slip away alone to the brig to try and pick up Grogu.
But we get our second colloquialism.
Yeah.
A real skank in the scud pie.
Yeah. A skank in the scud pie, and Andy Yudes equated that to...
This is not the first time they've used it, though.
No.
But it's like
Ellie says it in one of the episodes.
Yep.
What did you say? We're
a fly in the ointment.
A fly in the ointment? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I can't think of anything else to fit that, so that works for me.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you've got another interpretation of that, I'd love to hear it.
No, it's definitely that's definitely what it means.
So Mando's got to pass the Dark Trooper holding bay in order to meet up with everybody on the bridge. So he takes Pershing's code cylinder. Here we go, code cylinder again. Once again, tying it back to security clearance. Use the code cylinder to seal off the bay and then meet up on the bridge.
Yeah, Compnor.
Yeah, exactly. So now we move into there's the other part of the plan is that they're going to mount a distress signal and have Boba Fett chase them, essentially making it look like they're under attack, and they'll use that as the guys to board the cruiser. So we get this cool, I quite like this scene. It was like, a splash page with the two ships in hyperspace kind of maneuvering there, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, real cool.
Oh, where is it here? I think this is where we get the second part where the second princess line, because she says to him about how you got to make it look convincing, and he's like, just power up those shields. I'll put on a show, princess. Yeah,
and then so this is the third time, and the other layer here is almost now they're showing concern for one another. And I know it's their relationship is evolving quickly, but it's evolving into something. I think
maybe
there's a little bit of something there, because maybe it's just wishful thinking. It would be neat, but the way you be careful in there, and she's like, watch those deck cannons, and so that's more than just like.
I took it to be barbs, like little barbs at each other, but maybe it is the other way.
Calling her princess, and we have a.
Yeah, but so let's be real about it though. How many times have you, as an insult, referred to somebody on your work crew, okay, princess, because they got a splinter, or when you call some okay, muffin, it's the same thing, right?
True.
So
hit it with your purse, Dorothy. I say that a lot.
That's right. Oh, that's hilarious. Bo-Katan reasserts how Gideon is hers, and Kara objects this time by saying that he's ex-ISB. So she thinks that Bo-Katan's out to kill him. But he's ex-ISB and he's more valuable alive. To which Bo-Katan replies, I don't care as long as, he surrenders to me. So, dropping out of hyperspace, they do put on a convincing dogfight in which Gideon orders the launch of the TIE Squadron on board. We get Bo-Katan basically making a point, because they get two ships off before they can get to the mouth of the hangar, and she's like, the
one Battlestar Galactica stuff.
I know, right down the middle of the
treat for Katie Sackhoff.
Yeah,
maybe. It's a really nice shot, and it really invokes Battlestar. So that's one of the beats I was talking about, where Peyton Reed is using some sort of other sci-fi tropes and weaving them into Star Wars, and that one works really well.
It does. But I mean, like, we can go back to 79, and like Universal really, they got litigated by Lucasfilm over the similarities to Star Wars, in which they lost. So full circle moment.
Fantastic. Well, ripping someone off is different than an homage, I feel.
I didn't find to be honest, I didn't
find that either. But if that was your mentality, then you know what I mean? I feel like what is it? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. Yeah.
So Bo-Katan, being who she is, cool little moment too. She puts the Lambda in the flight path of the TIEs. One, to run cover for Boba, and two, I think, to mess up the launch sequence for the remaining fighters.
Yep.
That's right, because they're about to launch an entire squadron.
Yeah.
At which point, comms officer, played again by Katie O'Brien,
for the last time.
What are you doing? Clear the tube.
Yeah, and then she basically says, denied, like, don't come in, wait for the squadron to launch. And she's like, nope, we're under attack. We're coming in hot. So there's this cool moment where, you know, the chase kind of takes a bit of a turn, and as Bo-Katan wheels up on the front of the cruiser, he pulls away. She starts to fold up the wings, and as he passes over top of the cruiser, he manages to avoid a couple of cannon shots. But this awesome like barrel roll as the chin guns rotate backwards, and he takes out both ties from behind him, and then
leaps into hyperspace.
Yeah,
all one
super cool. Yeah, like highly complex maneuver while engaging, while trying to plot a hyperspace jump. Like, it just speaks to the level of skill of this guy, right?
That's the Boba Fett we've always wanted, man.
Right. And then we cut back to the Lambda, which makes I almost thought it was a belly up, but they did. It looks like they did.
Skids in.
They got the 2 landing gear. They did get the landing gear down because it gave them enough clearance to drop the boarding ramp, but they skid into the hangar. And once they, hey, get that out of here, clear this out.
There's a look out, and it's the same look out from the trench scene when the Falcon swoops in on Vader and his wingmen.
Yes, it is, isn't it?
I went back and I checked and played them back to back several times. The same sound. Yeah.
Side note here.
Go ahead.
I read something to the effect that there was fan speculation that Katie O'Brien's character was actually going to be Sabine Wren undercover.
Oh, really?
And that was why she was getting repetitive roles.
Oh.
But maybe it'll pan out later. Maybe it won't, because we never do see her die on screen.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to have to go back and watch it, but I was fairly certain that she bought it.
Dust.
Yeah.
What else is she in? What do we know her from?
Outside of The Mandalorian?
Yeah.
I don't know. Andy's going to look it up. I'll keep pushing forward here.
Yeah, definitely.
So back in the hangar, we get this moment where the deck officer and the stormtroopers, what are you doing? They're trying to clear the place out. You get that steam, like the very Star Warsy, like when the Emperor shuttle arrives and and through the fog, it's a hail of blaster fire as the Spice Girls pour out and start cleaning up.
Fantastic. Mando's Angels.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So Katie O'Brien has been in Westworld, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Magnum P.I.
The new Magnum, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Black Lightning, as well as Z Nation.
Oh, well. She's in quite a bit then. Quite a bit of action. Yeah, well, who knows? She seems a bit young for maybe what Sabine would be at this point.
I think so.
Who knows?
But apparently she's also a martial artist, so she's got that going for her.
Oh, good for her.
Perfect. I thought it was Jonathan Taylor Thomas at first.
Who was the comms officer?
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
Just kidding.
That's funny. Watching from the bridge, Gideon orders the activation of the Dark Troopers, and then we switch down to that room that they're in, and they basically have this warm-up sequence, I guess.
Yeah.
And the activation cycle begins to beat rhythmically like this industrial music kind of thing. And it may actually be music, but to me it just sounded like this repetitive rhythmic kind of thing as they were kind of waking up. But it's good because it serves as this it serves to build the tension.
Reinforces that they do have to power up.
Yeah. Like it basically, you have a limited amount of time to do what you got to do, and this is the countdown, right?
Yeah.
Back in the hangar, Mando departs the shuttle with the Beskar spear on his back because we knew that was going to happen. Meanwhile, the Spice Girls are battling stormtroopers on their way to the bridge. They come across a catwalk, which is over top of essentially I guess it would have been, I don't know if this is a purpose-built like deployment zone for the Dark Troopers because it's just ray shielded into space. But they get
that's an odd choice that
it is.
Rent them into space, but maybe it's even a security measure. But it's probably so that they can just deploy.
That's kind of what I thought, where they could just walk out, jump off, and they're out. So they get bumped by stormtroopers, and one guy falls off the once again catwalk with no railings, and literally falls into space.
Railings save lives.
At the same time, Casca and Bo, they jetpack off the side, and what happens is they get bumped from behind by like another squad, like 6 stormtroopers, and there's this cool scene with Bo and Casca. They jetpack up and basically take out all 6 guys while they're on their jetpacks.
It's a mirror of Clone Wars when Anakin's standing on that one bridge and the whole friggin' droid army on the other side facing off against him, and Rex and the rest of the 501st are on jetpacks under the bridge.
Oh, that's right.
They flank them, and then it felt like that a lot for me, actually.
Yeah. We get a flashback to the Dark Troopers, and we see that the little gauge there, the warm-up sequence, the meter is getting more to the top, that it's about to be done.
And the Orbesh there is pretty simple. It's just DT10 and DT20.
Yeah, so Dark Trooper and then the number.
Yeah.
We see at this point that the tubes, which we can safely say now were whatever cooling agent they were using, they start to detach. And the Dark Troopers step out from their alcoves, step into a formation, and they all draw blasters. Meanwhile,
those blasters from the art that we didn't see before.
Yeah, that's right.
Using the hip holsters like RoboCop.
I was going to say the hard points like First Order Stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm.
How it's not a holster anymore. It's just a hard point right on their leg. Were they actually concealed in the leg?
I thought it was fairly,
I know it was low on the thigh, but I didn't know if they were actually concealed or just hard pointed right to it like mounting
a fifth time.
Yeah. Mando trying to make his way, pauses for a Death Star droid.
So good. Finally on an Imperial base and not in a junk pile.
Yes. The RA-7 protocol droid, used almost exclusively by the Empire as spies. So
I got an Obi-Wan on the Death Star vibe in these scenes too, as he's sort of sneaking around.
Yeah, skulking around, trying to get to where he's got to go. Yeah. Meanwhile, back with the Spice Girls, Kara has a gun jam and decides, oh, well, to hell with it, and starts clubbing troopers with it anyway.
So good.
It is, yeah. Flashback to the Dark Troopers who march up to the door, and as it opens, Mando is like, no, 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 no! Dashes over to the control panel, jams the code cylinder in to try and shut the doors, but one of the Dark Troopers is able to get his hands on it and starts prying open the doors. So there's this interesting scene. I found it interesting. You get that close-up of the hands that are prying the door open, and you're sort of staring at the red eyes, and you can see between the actual shots fired and then the reflection off the Dark Trooper in that sequence, Mando puts like 16 rounds into the Dark Trooper with no effect.
No effect.
Zero. The doors fly open and the lead Dark Trooper punches Mando across the hallway, allowing the trooper to get out, and then the doors slam shut behind him. Mando, meanwhile, continues to shoot. The round count is now 21 rounds with no effect.
No effect.
Inside the bay, the two lead Dark Troopers begin punching their way out, cracking the glass in the doors as they go.
So for me, there's just a little nod to there's got to be some hive mind because there's zero communication, audible communication between the droids.
Yeah,
so they all step into formation at once. They all react at once. So for me, that's a little hive mind programming.
Very drone.
They start punching the doors in unison.
Yep.
Well,
we're going to see that again too, like when they have a clear objective and suddenly everything stops. And again, there's no visual, or audible communication cues. So again,
I must be saying, okay, threat over here.
Yeah.
Deal with this threat.
Yeah, exactly. There's this cool moment here where I call this my Hulkbuster moment, where Mando is literally taking a beating from the Dark Trooper, who's just repeatedly smashing him in the face. And the Beskar is holding up like pristinely, not taking a single ounce of damage.
And plus the plexi in there must be Beskar too. I guess it didn't shatter the glass. For me, this was the second time Peyton Reed reached into other sci-fi and gave us a little trope that was awesome. And this is straight out of Terminator. When the T-1000 is punching Arnold Schwarzenegger's head into the wall. And for me, it's great.
See, and I went the other way with it. I took it right out of
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, where Tony and the Hulkbuster is punching Hulk, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. And every time he wails on the Hulk, he's sinking further into the pavement.
Yeah.
Right as the bulkhead is giving way. Similar moments. Interesting how we pulled two references out of that essentially say the same thing.
Yeah, identical. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Although now when you say Terminator, I I'm more inclined to side with you on that one. I think that's
just the mechanical nature of the punches
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
The head was, into a wall. It was everything was steel and shiny. I really got Terminator vibes off.
Right.
Especially the way that the Dark Troopers actually move is very reminiscent of the chassis of the
It is.
T-100. Yeah.
But at the same time, they're establishing again how the strength of Beskar.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, establishing the strength
of the Dark Trooper.
Yeah, they're packing a punch.
So, I mean, and even if you're wearing the trauma that's going on, we talked about this before, where he just bangs his head on the cockpit and goes unconscious. What's going on inside that helmet has got to be tremendous.
I thought back to season 1 when he got his bell rang and how he was, for all intents and purposes, he was gonna die.
Yeah, he was bleeding and crazy madness under the helmet, and we'll talk about that later. But he looks pretty good right now.
I mean,
at the same time, though, there's no bounce back because his head is pinned against the wall.
Yeah, there's no.
So,
that's true. That's true. So
they're absorbing it all.
Okay.
The first blow, I think for sure.
Yes.
Everything after that, your theory holds up.
just comfy punching.
The next sequence is this desperation moment where Mando pulls out all the tricks. He flamethrowers the chest cavity to no avail.
Provides a great visual though.
Oh yeah.
I think he sets the oxygen on fire there is what happens.
Yeah. And then does a Dark Trooper not look even more evil, terrifying at that point when it's on fire?
Oh yeah.
Gets thrown across the hallway, lets off his volley of whistling birds, and I mean it staggers for a second, but it just, like you say, like a Terminator, it just keeps coming.
And I think that it takes him off balance enough for him to do the next maneuver, which is the Beskar spear.
Which is awesome. If he didn't get tossed down the hallway and basically slid most of the way, there's a good chance, it might have been the end of days for him. But as you say, he gets to the Beskar spear, drives it in through the head, and then rends the head right off the body, taking it out. So
good.
Very, very good. The girls, by now, they've gotten on an elevator, and Kara continues to clear the jam in her gun. And then
she swears twice. We get a new swear. We get the first one is
we get a dank ferric.
She says, "Son of a mud scuffer."
Yeah. Have we heard mud scuffer?
We've heard mud scuffer, but not in that context.
Because Bill Burr says the poor mud scuffers that died in those wars. So,
that's right.
And she uses it. He uses it as poor people, and she uses it as son of a mud scuffer. So there's a negative sort of a lower class connotation.
Well, it's interesting, and they both have that same connotation. They're both sort of, son of a bitch kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
One
of my favorite ones that they haven't used is a moof milker.
Moof milker.
In Force Awakens. I use moof milker a lot, actually.
The elevator opens up and the girls bust out. And now that she's got her gun fixed, she flips it back into auto, and it's a light repeating blaster action as she basically does a whole deck sweep and clears the deck of almost everybody. So on the bridge, and I'm pretty sure that communications officer, I'm pretty sure she was in one of the lead, she got up and made a run for it and did not make it.
Fair enough.
At this point, who is it? Is it Fennec? Rushing the bridge, clearing it of enemies, and then deactivating the ship's weapon systems, the cannons up on the hull.
I think you're right, and just because you need to get on the elevator to get out of the bridge, and so nobody got off the elevator, and there was nobody left in the room but Gideon and the rest.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So I think you're right about her being dead.
I think she is. And Bo-Katan, where's Gideon? She's expects to find, and of course you'd go to the bridge. You'd expect to find him there commanding his ship. Absolutely. From the bridge. Where's Gideon? And then we flash back to Mando, who is now just outside the brig. There's 2 stormtrooper guards there, and silently and effectively with the spear, takes one out with a poke to the gut, and then chokes the other one out,
breaks his neck.
Breaking the neck. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Entering the cell, we see Moff Gideon standing over Grogu with the dark saber held over his head.
And as soon as they said, "Where's Gideon?" I was like, "Oh no."
Yeah, I mean, you kind of knew if he wasn't on the bridge, of course. But it's consistent though, right? Because in that other episode where Grogu is pitching, he's ragdolling those stormtroopers, Gideon's watching, he's getting off on watching it.
Yep.
Of course he's going to be there. And, a characteristic of him from his season 1 appearance where he calls out everybody by name. "Oh yes, I know everything about you." they almost paint him with this Thrawn-like sensibility in his ability to plan his strategy and tactics.
Yeah, he says, just assume I know everything. He
Right,
literally
yeah.
says, assume I know everything.
Which he reinforces later.
Oh, he does. And he said, actually, right here in this scene, he says it, including like you just fired off your only volley of from your bracer.
Here come the rest of the Dark Troopers, and you had trouble with just one. So he
watched it.
Yeah,
he watched exactly. That's how I feel. Like he watched it, or was definitely have the information piped to his armor
somehow. Yeah. So there's some exposition about Gideon, what he knows about the Darksaber, and that its power, and that it is what legitimizes the claim to the Mandalorian throne. And Mando's like, I don't care. You can keep it. I just want the kid. He's like, that's all he wants. And Gideon, being who he is, he's like, all right. But not before he goes on about how it's fine. I've already got what I need from the child. He's very gifted. And, he talks about how I can see the bond between the two of you. And he's like, you need to know that this kid's gifted and he possesses rare properties that potentially bring order back to the galaxy.
Yeah, he's referencing Palpatine right there. The order that can be brought back is Palpatine.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
The double entendre, order, could very much be the first order or even the final order.
That's right.
But he plays it off like, yeah, okay, you can take him.
Yeah, so
but
just
you got to leave right now.
Right, and that's the condition. You leave my ship and we never, we part ways.
Mando's almost too emotional about it too, because he just drops his guard and goes, okay,
he totally does. Yeah.
I'll take you at your word, which is ridiculous.
Yep. Mando reaches for Grogu as Gideon sort of sachets around him, and then it's the double cross as he, strikes him in the back with the Darksaber. But
Beskar to the rescue.
We've got our Beskar life jacket on, and is able to take a few hits. They stumble out into the hallway, and we get that saber spear fight that we knew was coming. What did we think of that?
So there's a couple of weird things there, like when they presses the Darksaber right into the spear.
It glows red hot.
Yeah, and when he does the same thing to one of his gauntlets, it doesn't do that, suggesting that maybe the spear's not pure Beskar. Maybe a plot point for later.
Maybe. I did appreciate the glowing haft. Like we'd seen it before when Qui-Gon Jinn plunged his lightsaber into the blast doors on the Trade Federation battleship, and I love that scene. I wanted to see that thing. I wanted to see that play out right to the end. Like how much will a lightsaber?
Exactly.
Yeah. What are the limits? Will it actually melt the door off? So I appreciated that little moment.
And then the combat was fantastic because he used spear techniques. He used it like it was awesome. The spins, it was a great fight scene.
The back, he's sort of, staggered a bit, and now he's only holding it with one hand. So he mule kicks it, bang, flips it around and turns it into a strike, which visually is it was a very yummy moment. But I thought that the fight was maybe just a little too short for my liking. Certainly it was effective.
That they had to get to the point that, like, while Gideon is fairly proficient with the blade, he is not anywhere in the caliber.
Oh yeah, I mean his
story beat is just to have him defeated.
Certainly
we could have had a little bit more. Yeah,
his lightsaber strikes seem almost like barn swinging, kind of like gross motor movements, as opposed to
he's relying on it to cut through anything.
I guess so. Yeah. Like he cuts through the tether line, which kind of brings in, this is going to come up later when I talk about sort of the Darksaber and lineage and stuff like that. But keep that in mind for later. Anyway, Mando goes on to disarm him, and then kind of does the spear point to the throat, and Gideon's like, "Oh, you're sparing my life? Well, this should be interesting."
Yeah, he's not shook at all.
No. Like he knows something that Din does not.
You're listening to Fandom Power.
cut to the bridge of the cruiser, and there's this neat moment, another callback. There's Bo-Katan standing, arms folded behind her back, staring at the viewport, a la, Tarkin, or any other number of Imperial officers that we've seen
does it once,
staring out the viewports, right? Mando escorts Gideon onto the bridge. Bo-Katan turns around, and she's got this incredulous look on her face. What happened?
Well, he's literally got the Darksaber ignited and in his hand still.
Yeah.
He's got it. He didn't even shut it off. He just walked down the hall with Grogu in one arm and the lit Darksaber in the other.
Yeah.
Comes in quite dramatically, actually.
Right. And of course, Kara's like, Kara not even thinking about the big picture. She's like, he brought him in alive. That's what happened. And now the New Republic is going to have to double the payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But Gideon counters back and he says, but that's not what she's talking about. And you can just see that he's thoroughly enjoying the moment, with the knowledge that he has, right? Staring sort of, you get you're interspersed with these little quick cuts to Bo-Katan and how the look on her face, right? Where she's like the look of shock. Gideon says, why don't you kill him now and take it?
Yeah. It belongs to you.
Yeah. So here's where it all comes out in the wash. He's like, it belongs to you now. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah. He explains it now for the benefit of everyone, including the viewers, that the Darksaber is in fact the seed, the symbol of the seed of power on Mandalore. And now that it belongs to him, he's the leader. Yep. So he turns it off and he's like, well, now it belongs to her. But Gideon's like, oh no, she can't take it. It has to be won in combat. And Bo-Katan just kind of dejectedly stares at her feet for a second, like, oh, he's right.
And he's like, I yield. Take it.
Mando says, I yield.
Yeah, and
I yield.
It doesn't work that way.
So I got a problem with this.
A lot of people have a problem with this, and I've got some. First, let's talk about the problems with it, and let's see if we can figure it out.
Literally hands Bo-Katan the Darksaber and says, "Here."
That's true.
You're the ruler of Mandalore.
That is absolutely true.
It unites all of the clans of Mandalore that we know about.
Yep.
At the time, under one banner. Something horrible has happened since. Right. But why the new rule? Unless maybe losing the Darksaber means she has to win it back in I can't rationalize this new rule.
I don't think
we've seen her gifted the Darksaber before.
I don't think it's a new rule.
Okay.
I'm going to call it an exception, and you got to follow me through the beats here because it goes all the way back. So when we talk about the Darksaber and the legitimacy of who wields it, we got to go back to Darth Maul. So Darth Maul is a legitimate wielder. He's a legitimate ruler of Mandalore because he killed pre-Vizsla.
That's correct.
And he took it from pre-Vizsla. So now the Darksaber stays in Maul's possession throughout the remainder of Clone Wars, and it stays with him well into Rebels, and it's not until after he's defeated that they discover the Darksaber in his belongings, in his possessions. And that's when it's given to Sabine. So it's given to Sabine under the if we follow the current rules about how it must be won in combat, Sabine is not a legitimate heir because it was just gifted to her as well. But because Sabine is our Mandalorian connection in that show, she has to be the one to take it back to the rest of her people.
Right.
It goes so far as when she goes to see her mother, when she holds the Darksaber up and she talks to her mom, they have that scene out on the balcony of their cottage or whatever it is. And how did you get it? And she says, I got it from Maul's possessions. And her mother asks her specifically, you won it in combat? And Sabine says, no, she didn't.
Yeah.
But her mother does nothing to take it away from her.
Nope.
She just lets her continue to have it. So we know that Sabine is not a legitimate heir. And when she gave it to Bo-Katan, that means Bo-Katan was not a legitimate heir. But here's the big difference. At the end of that episode, that arc, when, what's his name? The Protector. Do you remember his name?
Oh.
The Mandalorian Protector? The blue guy.
Geez. I can't remember.
Anyway, it's not so. Who he is not as important as what happens next. They leave, and to go out at the end of the arc, Sabine basically is like, "Listen, I'm not the one to lead us." And she turns to Bo-Katan and she says, "But you are." And she tries to give it to her, and Bo-Katan is a little bit hesitant. And it's at that moment when the hatch opens and all the assembled clans are there. The first clan to talk, it's Clan Vizsla, and they all say the same thing. Clan so-and-so supports you. Clan so-and-so supports you.
That's right.
So she's gotten the support of the assembled clans, and I think that's the only reason that she accepts it. That it is a break in tradition, it's a break in customs, because, as Sabine's mother pointed out, it does have to be won in combat.
Lauren's argument was that it was de facto won in combat when Bo-Katan led that revolution and she succeeded.
Yeah. So I want to bring it full circle, and I want to close it up. Here's why she's so zealous to get it back from Gideon. She knows that she was an illegitimate heir to begin with. So because she is so hot and heavy to get to him, does that not say that Gideon legitimately won it?
Yeah.
And that's why she's so hot to get it back, which is why she's so shocked when they walk in the room and there's Mando. He is now the first legitimate Mandalorian to hold the Darksaber since pre-Vizsla.
Yeah, she's duty bound to follow him right now.
That's right.
Unless she challenges him to combat. It also explains, I mentioned way back in episodes ago that I found it curious that Gar Saxon returned the Darksaber to Maul in prison in the final season of Clone Wars, and now it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I had to go back and watch those episodes because I'm like, I'm missing something here, because I didn't find it to be this big. I knew there was something there that I was missing, but I wasn't sure what it was. And when Sabine's mother was like, "Did you win it in combat?" and she said no.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
I'm like, okay, so it's a de facto position, but then Bo-Katan really did lose it, presumably to Gideon, and now she needs to win it back.
It was worth my joke, though, of the mandatory and ritual combat.
Yes. So, big standoff moment. He's got the saber. He's the leader of Mandalore. But then the whole thing is interrupted when there's an alarm going off on a console, and we see several blips moving towards the cruiser.
And they're like,
Gideon.
How many life forms?
Yeah, none. So Gideon, in his, sadistic way, maybe she'll get another crack at it. And it's
and for me, I would have if I was Mando, I'd just toss him back the Darksaber and let it happen.
Well, see, I was talking with Kim about this last night, and she's like, why didn't he do just that? Hand it back to Gideon and make him fight her. But again, I think the whole honor bound thing, I don't think that Bo-Katan wouldn't have allowed that.
Several times during the fight, I was Palpatine, and I was like, kill him.
Do it.
Do it.
Hey, it's the previously vented Dark Troopers, and they've flown home. The crew, as it were, look on as the Dark Troopers begin to board the cruiser through a couple different points of entry, scattering them across the whole breadth of the ship, which sets up our big action piece for the next portion of the show. And they watch all this through monitors. Kara shoves Gideon to the deck, where he spots a discarded blaster from one of his dead crewmen, and he covers it with his cape. Clearly, he's waiting for the right moment to strike with it. Mando now places Grogu behind a console for safety, saying, "Don't worry, kid. I'm going to get you out of here."
At this point, I thought something was wrong with Grogu.
He did look a little...
Yeah, I thought he was sick, or he had this kind of, that scene where Yoda is dying?
Yeah.
He had that weakness to him that we haven't seen before.
Eyes kind of closed, yeah.
And but successive watches, I kind of think he was reaching out with the Force, actually.
Yeah, it's almost like, was he this time on the receiving end of the phone call?
I think so.
You know what I mean?
I actually do think that. Yes.
Yeah. So we cut back to the Dark Troopers. We see a batch of them marching toward the bridge. Fennec, in another legacy line, seal the blast doors. Mm-hmm. And she slams the controls and the doors swing shut. Halting at the door, the two lead dark troopers, they holster their blasters, and we get this moment that I'm calling the Rock'em Sock'em Robot moment, as they start rhythmically punching the doors.
Still have that toy, by the way.
Yeah, made by Mattel. Funny. I wonder if Hasbro's got some issues with that Rock'em Sock'em moment. The doors we see slowly begin to buckle, right? Gideon regales at the notion that the troopers are going to break through and they will kill everyone in the room except for him and the child. And like the tension is really, really high because again, it's this, we've sort of had these last stand moments before, but it's been singularly like Mando at his wit's end with the Mudhorn, like, okay, I'm resolved, I'm going to die, but we've never had the stakes this high for an entire group of people.
No.
They're all blasters at the ready, knowing blasters don't work.
Exactly. But what else are you going to do? I mean,
what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
Gideon's like, you got a good fire team here, but...
That's right. Yeah, and then their line about killing everybody in the room.
Yeah.
The proximity alarm that we heard with the Dark Troopers goes off again, and you get this sweet, sweet, sweet hero shot of a single X-Wing passing by the bridge. And they say it's an X-Wing, and Bo-Katan goes to the comms console and she tries to raise him, identify yourself, and it's complete silence. And Kara sarcastically, "One X-Wing? Oh, great, we're saved."
Yeah,
I love that line. How sarcastic she is.
I think I knew right away. Some part of me knew right away when it was a single X-Wing.
I did too. And then we get a close-up through the monitor of the X-Wing pulling into the bay, the hangar, to the landing bay. And this is my only criticism of the entire episode. I think I brought it up yesterday when we were talking pre-show.
You sent me a screenshot, yeah.
Why is there no Red 5 markings on that X-Wing?
And I thought there were. I actually thought that there were.
Did you? I looked up Red 5 again just to make sure that I wasn't missing something. Because
I mean, certainly it's black and white, but it has that thin, thick L-shaped red thing on the wing.
But the 5 hash marks behind it aren't there.
Oh well, yeah, maybe.
Right. As I'm looking, I have a Legacy. I have a Star Wars Legacy Edition Wedge's X-Wing Red 2, and I'm staring at it right now, and it's clearly got the 2 red hash marks behind the L piece.
I get you.
But when you look up Luke's Red 5, the 5 red hash marks aren't there.
Yeah, you're right.
And yet, it's there for Star Wars. Presumably it's there throughout Empire, even though we don't get a lot of stuff with Luke's X-Wing. It's there in The Rise of Skywalker when Rey takes over and fly. She even uses the call sign Red 5 coming back to the civilian fleet.
So there's a weird gap in the continuity there, because in the handbook or the whatever it's called of The Last Jedi, Luke uses the wing of the X-Wing as his door to his hut.
Oh, interesting.
And so she magically repairs that after lifting the X-Wing out
Must
of
have
the
been
water.
one of the lower wings.
Chewie punches it and bends it in half in the novel.
Oh wow!
Sends it flying into his, so like this. So there, yeah, whatever.
I think I made a joke with you guys yesterday about why wasn't it there? And Kim had said to me, well, it could have just been another X-Wing that he was using. I'm like, it just doesn't make sense for that. And so I'm like, to rationalize, I'm like, yeah, Luke's X-Wing was in the shop that day getting waterproofed.
That's perfect. But perhaps he's either rogue leader or red leader now.
Yeah.
And they've just removed the 5s, or perhaps he's just removed the striping because this is just his personal, same vehicle, different painting, because he's no longer part of the regular Rebel squadrons.
It's entirely possible. I just thought, it was I feel like
spoilers.
The real, the real answer is it's played for drama.
Absolutely, 100%.
But you can't tell me that's not Red 5.
It's definitely Red 5.
Grogu, we cut to Grogu, and he has this like moment where he starts to perk up, like almost like there's a recognition, something's going on here.
It's kind of like a plant coming back to life,
Yeah, very much. The Rock.
So there's your other sci-fi moment, the E.T.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
At this point, the Rock'em Sock'em robots cease their barrage on the door, and they draw blasters, and then they turn around.
Mm-hmm.
Gideon, staring with a look of panic, is wondering what is going on at the turn of events.
So quiet. They must be linked to the ship's systems.
I guess so. Fennec says, why did they stop? Watching from the security monitors, we see a dark cloaked figure cutting through the dark troopers with a lightsaber. And although it's through security monitors, as soon as I saw the hooded cloak flowing up the hallway, I mean, if the X-Wing wasn't enough, at this point, I'm clutching the sides of my head as the tears are, I can feel my bottom lip quivering, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
It's
I'm exactly, my hands are on the sides of my face. I'm standing up at this point, and I'm just sort of almost rocking back and forth. Interestingly enough, my friend that I've told you about with his young 10-year-old son that's really invested in this, and it comes from a love of Rebels.
Yep.
With his mind, saw the green lightsaber and thought Ezra.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Ezra does finish with a green lightsaber, doesn't he?
Yeah, and so, his mind, he came at it like not being a legacy guy.
Right.
He came at it from an Ezra Bridger standpoint. His dad was like, no, it's Luke Skywalker. And that didn't have the impact for him.
Wow.
That it had for us, because he wanted his legacy, the guy he identifies with.
Sure. He wanted his characters to be.
That's right.
Oh, that makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, but what a nice, to have a 10-year-old that invested as we are. That's a hope. That's the whole point.
Well, there you go. As you say, there's the hope, so that if and when, and I say, I more heavily lean into when we get some resolution to the Ezra Bridger storyline, I hope that the payoff is just as good for him as it was for us.
Absolutely.
But pardon my French, Luke fucking Skywalker.
Dude,
oh my God.
Dude, just like we the catharsis, the fixing of the Last Jedi, which wasn't broken, but we needed that.
We needed something to smooth. I'm just going to read directly from my notes because I could not encapsulate the beats of the fight, but I wrote, a storm of force pushes and lightsaber mastery from the greatest living Jedi is more than enough to overcome the dark troopers.
They're all. I wrote that. I don't even want to read say what I wrote, but they're ineffectual against him. They might as well just be stormtroopers.
Yep.
I mean, he's as much as he's deflecting their blaster shots, he's dodging too. It's incredible to watch.
There's a flurry of motion there, and I say this entire sequence is this beautiful blend of the fencing style that we saw used in the original trilogy, peppered with the modern lightsaber fighting that we became accustomed to in the prequels and now the sequels. And it's just so amazing to see Luke Skywalker, at the height of his skills.
Yes.
I wrote, this is the swashbuckling Luke that we saw on the barge in Return of the Jedi.
Yes. And they mirrored that fighting style.
Oh,
it was so good. And just to give the tension, he never drops the cloak. There's still a question, and even though it's not a real question, the focusing on the gloved hand with the lightsaber in it, the power, he's crushes the one,
he is a master now,
crushes it. And then in the hallway, the inverse scene from Rogue One where Vader faces off against the rebel troops, they're even moving in imposed directions, and it's the red. The whole scene is red. This one's all kind of green. Wow, it was so powerful.
Even to the point where Luke draws one of them in, the way Vader did one of the troopers. Yeah,
cuts him in half. So good. The best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep, hands down. So I'm just going to have my little fanboy moment here and say that this is the best piece of Star Wars since Rogue One, and it may be the best piece of Star Wars ever.
Yes.
In a visual medium.
Yes.
I want to take a second. I want to talk about Mark Hamill as a human being, as a person, in terms of Mark Hamill's attachment to Luke Skywalker. And I just trying to put myself in his position. Imagine you as Mark Hamill getting approached by presumably Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni together, asking, would you come back? Knowing how, and Mark Hamill's been very, very public about the way that Luke Skywalker was characterized in the sequels, to the point where he said, you know, like quite literally, script in hand, went to Rian Johnson and said, Luke wouldn't do this. This isn't the character. And then he says, but I'm an actor, so I shut up and I did my job. Right. Is this not a vindication for him as an actor and for the character?
Absolutely.
He trolled us all too, because after Rise of Skywalker, he said, I'm done with the character.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely done with the character. I'm done with the movies. I'm done with the character. I'm going to move on. I love you all, and I still love the character, and I'll still interact with you guys on Twitter, and we'll talk about being fans of it.
Yeah.
But I'm done with the character. And biggest troll of all.
Is it though? Like, I have to imagine, there had to be a meeting, maybe yes. Several meetings, but I have to imagine, to be a fly on the wall during that meeting when you're laying out to Mark fucking Hamill, listen, I'm writing a little part for you, and it's Luke Skywalker. Oh, yeah. Really? Really? After everything I went through? No, Mark. It's different. Oh, I've heard that before. No, Mark. It's really, really different. Like, I
imagine it was just, I mean, it's what he wanted. It's what we all wanted.
I think
I don't find, and it was a little bit, it's not that Mark Hamill had problems, and he certainly did, but I didn't have the problems that everybody had with that, because to me, the character of Luke Skywalker reacted exactly like all the characters that mentored him. Yoda faces defeat and goes into exile to bide his time to see what's next.
Yep.
Obi-Wan faces defeat and he goes into exile to bide his time to see what's next. And so does Luke, although Luke does it in a more final way.
Yeah, the big difference is, and I think this is the key to that whole thing. You're right. They all go into exile, but only one of those characters cut themselves off from the Force.
Yeah, that's a little extreme.
So how do you rationalize that? You know, that's a major departure from the other two characters who, like you say, into exile to see what happens next. But they remain connected. I mean, they remain connected to the Force, and that's the big distinction between the three of them. And I think that
gives me back all the Legends stuff too.
Yeah, it does.
It lets me feel like that 20-year period of Luke Skywalker at the height of his power, traveling the galaxy, trying to build a Jedi temple.
I said yesterday, after I watched the episode, I sent I went to our Twitter, to the show's Twitter, and I tweeted Mark Hamill directly to say, you know, like, we collectively as the show here, we're so happy, you know, about the way that you came back to Star Wars. And I use the words, a Jedi like his father before him.
Oh, man.
You know, and remember we were talking about way back on the big Star Wars episode when we first started doing Fandom Power, and I kind of made the joke, and this is kind of the running joke. It's like, everybody says they love Empire, but they really do love Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's all I could think about in this moment is like, you know what? Everybody really does love Return of the Jedi.
It's very true. It's very true.
I could go on for hours about this whole sequence, but for the sake of the show, let's keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Gideon, seeing things unfold on the monitor, desperately makes his play, desperately shoots at Bo-Katan. She's so, you know, phased by what's going on that she doesn't even attempt to defend herself or doesn't see it coming, and she just takes the peppering in the chest, thinking that, you know, and she goes down. She actually drops.
I thought he might have got her.
So did I. And then he turns his attention to Grogu and lets loose a burst at Grogu. Mando dives in front of him, taking the blast in the chest.
Which gave me a scare moment.
Me too, because like, I'm thinking, is he gonna roll over and there's gonna be a smoking hole in Grogu, which I half expected. Because I remember we were talking about how the fight was going to, part of our predictions on the show, at least on some level, were true, that there was going to be a crew, there was going to be a rescue, things were going to go bad, and the Jedi would show up to turn the tide of battle.
That's right.
Not realizing that the Jedi was going to turn up and actually be the battle. But still, with everyone's attention now squarely on him, Gideon attempts to take his own life by pointing the blaster underneath his chin, but before he can pull the trigger, Kara knocks him out.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, now just outside the bridge, faces off against the final squad of Dark Troopers, and the scene, as you say, plays out just like the one from Rogue One, in which Vader kills the rebel troopers trying to escape with the Death Star plans.
Oh, there's still that tension that comes like with the elevator.
Oh, I know the lights.
Yeah.
With the lights, like like in progress, and then the final bing. The door opens and he comes out a flurry of motion. Luke finally, he crushes the last droid, much like Vader crushed his surgical droid after cybernetic surgery. Picking up Grogu, Mando orders that they open the doors. And I think it's Fennec. She's like, "Are you crazy?" And he's like, "Open the doors." And the doors open. And again, it's like the foggy as we see the green blade penetrate the fog, and the figure walks in. The lightsaber is shut off, and he drops the hood and he takes up the same position, same hand posture as he did in the Emperor's throne room, and just looks at him like, "No, I'm a Jedi like my father."
Oh man.
This whole moment of, "Are you a Jedi?" And he's like, "Yeah." "Come, little one." And he's like, he doesn't want to go with you. But there's an exposition piece about talent is nothing without training. And I will give my life to protect the child. He doesn't want to go with you.
He'll be safe.
That's right. And Luke says he wants your permission. Mm-hmm. And we have this whole moment about, Mando saying that it's okay. I'll see you again. I promise. Mm-hmm. And we finally get the payoff that we've been waiting for the whole season. If Luke Skywalker wasn't a big enough payoff, we get the payoff from Mando, where in a room full of strangers, he pulls his helmet off in full view of everybody, and there's this moment of my God, it's this father-son moment, and I equate this to Luke and Anakin at the end of Jedi, where it's like Mando lifts his helmet off to look at Grogu with his own eyes.
For me, it doesn't even violate the rule there, because there is nobody else in that room but him and Grogu.
Emotionally, no, there isn't. I mean, yeah. And Grogu in a touching way.
It makes me well up right now.
Oh yeah. And the whole has that tender moment, like touching his face, like it's
his face. I lost it.
A hello and a goodbye all at the same time. Like, it was just so well done.
Man.
All right, pal. It's time to go. Don't be afraid. And he puts him down on the deck. Grogu, still holding on to Mando's pant leg, doesn't want to go. And then,
very much like the scene where Anakin says goodbye to Shmi. Don't be afraid.
Yeah. So something interesting happens at this point, and because the tone it shifts from this heart-wrenching, you're tearing me away from my dad, and my dad doesn't want me to go, but he does want me to go, but not, and the whole thing is broken when R2-D2 rolls into the room and, does a couple of whistle beep clicks, and we as fans are like, "Oh, great, R2's still with him and hanging around." But that,
for me, this was really big.
So something, yeah, me too. This is a huge moment for me.
This is a huge moment for me because R2 says something to him and he understands him.
You can't tell me that he didn't.
And for me, this is Grogu knowing R2 from the Jedi Temple, because he was Anakin's droid and he was always at the temple.
Yeah.
And for me, this is Grogu finding an old friend and R2 reassuring him that everything is going to be okay. Come with us.
It's okay. I want to take it a step further. I agree that there is this moment of recognition, and there's a visual precedent for it too, because when R2 pulls up his third leg, his center leg, and he has that little shaky waddle, it's the same reaction that he had at the sight of C-3PO on the dais in the medal ceremony on Yavin. Like, it's the first time he'd seen 3PO since he'd been put back together, and he's happy to see his friend.
Yes.
So contextually, does that suggest that R2-D2 saved Grogu from Order 66?
That's amazing.
Maybe.
That's amazing, bro.
So not only is he a friend, but I mean, he's quite literally, and I was saying to Andy sort of pre-show, this is like like you say, R2 was in the service of Anakin Skywalker for a while. And R2, while not directly, witness to, is aware of the atrocities that Anakin committed. Because he explains them all.
For the duel. He's present
that's it.
for the final duel.
Right. So he knows.
He's there. He knows that Anakin falls.
Right. So was that R2's... Because R2's left at the temple when Anakin hops off into the airspeeder to go off to go back to the temple to kill the younglings. Does R2 somehow, get there and is able to get at least one kid out?
Oh, it's entirely possible. He's small enough to fit inside R2 somewhere.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm. And for me, it's very much like when Obi-Wan meets R2 and says, and I always felt this, and even though people have argued,
hello there, my little friend.
There, and come here, my little friend.
Yeah.
And he tells Luke, I don't seem to remember owning a droid, but he clearly knows who R2 is there, and they have a moment. Yeah. And for me, this is a full circle moment when R2 has the same moment. Yeah. It is literally R2's hello there.
Oh, yeah.
Friend. Don't be afraid.
That's right.
The bookends for me are just wow.
So you want to talk about a bookend? Luke picks up Grogu, and he gives them the "May the Force be with you" line, which is completely beautiful. It's so it means so much coming from him, right?
Mm.
And everybody's just kind of staring at him. They walk down the hallway, and there's this moment where they board the elevator, and Luke turns around, and everybody is now facing each other as we're waiting for them to depart in the elevator. And I couldn't help but think that, oh my God, this is an allegory to the scene on Dagobah where Yoda, Luke, and R2 are sitting there on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, full circle moment. I can almost hear the words, the student becomes the master. And if we look at it through that lens, you have this character in Grogu who, by the time we meet him, already has a rudimentary understanding of the Force, much the same way that Luke did after spending some time with Obi-Wan. And now, whereas Luke went off to find Yoda, the Jedi Master, to train him, here we have, and I don't want to say it because I think it's cheesy, but I'm going to for the sake of punctuating my point.
I know exactly where you're going.
Here we have Luke, who's come to find, who sought out baby Yoda to train him.
Yes.
And it's this full circle moment. Sure. Yeah. And cut to black. That's the end of the episode.
I gotta think, is this the catalyst for him starting the Jedi Temple?
I don't know.
Is this his first student? We're 5 years after.
We are, yeah. That's right.
Endor. Ostensibly, he was still fighting with the rebellion up to the Battle of Jakku. So we're 4 years from the Battle of Jakku.
Yep.
Ben Solo is 4 years old.
Yep.
Man, there's so many questions. Does Ben Solo kill Grogu?
I hope not.
What the hell are we going to do with a season of The Mandalorian without Grogu?
Yeah.
Like,
a thought on that one.
Thing really over?
I don't think it's over, but I think the road has parted for a little bit. But if you remember back to the synopsis for A Droid Story, it says a new hero will be guided by R2-D2 and C-3PO. What if Grogu is that new hero?
Oh, my Lord.
And R2-D2 is like, yeah, come on, we'll go. And we can go hang out and you can get trained. And
interesting.
Wow.
And while still aiming it at that younger audience.
Aiming lower.
Grogu is the perfect candidate for that.
That's interesting. I never thought that.
I would watch a Luke Skywalker Grogu R2 show.
And that would be a great way to do it. I mean, animated gives you all the freedom of, of feature quality visuals without feature budget. So
and Mark Hamill can voice
absolutely
that till the end of time, right? So
that's right. So something is afoot in this episode because, besides any more, is there any more we want to talk about Luke / what we just saw before we move on to the next bit?
It's the catharsis I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, me too.
And they're amazing. The writing, you go from euphoria to heartbreak to hope in like 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's almost more than my heart can take. And it's for the people that are really invested in it, like us. I'm hearing this. I read mass media articles about how the end of the episode broke Star Wars fans, and it lets me know that they're like, they're right on the money. The writing is right on the finger of what we need and what we want.
It's through the roof good.
It's through the roof good. It's honest. Like I keep saying it, but it's the best thing I've ever seen.
Earlier this week, on an unrelated note, talking about the about what's going on, a guy that I don't know, just a random internet commenter, responded to one of my comments saying about how, Star Wars is dead and that they killed it. And I'm like, well, with the 10 projects that were just announced, Star Wars is far from dead. And if the writing is any good as it is on The Mandalorian, it's got a very bright future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think it's important. I don't think I mentioned it, but I think it's important to go back for a second and just talk about the reveal of Din Djarin's face and how he's welled up, but he's holding it back until they depart the room. And on that final look back, and he gives him that like little head nod. He's openly crying now.
Yeah. Great acting.
Oh my God.
Fantastic actor. There's an old filmmaker's trope, and it's a way to immediately, and this is, I've read this in sort of like filmmaking textbooks and things. If you want to guarantee that you can make a female audience member cry,
yep,
you show a female not able to cry.
Oh, really?
On screen, and therefore the natural response will be from the female audience viewer to cry for her.
Oh, I was going to say,
and to let the emotion free. And the other end I've always read was, if you want to make a male audience member cry, kill a dog.
Kill a dog, yeah.
But what they've done is they've done that they removed the gender from it, which is fantastic, because we're all human beings. And why we cried there was because he couldn't.
Yeah, I guess so, eh?
And so our release was his release.
It's the Subotai moment in Conan when Valeria is on the funeral pyre and the wizard says to Subotai, "Why are you crying?" And Subotai says, "Because he is Conan. He will not cry. I will cry for him."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There you go.
So something is afoot in this episode as we cut away to our credit sequence, and that there's no credit artwork in this episode. And that threw me for a loop, because not only am I now trying to fight through my own tears and make some semblance of what the hell did I just see, I'm like, what's going on? And
we talked just before the episode about how so many people were full of emotion and stopped it right there. And as my finger was over the button on my laptop to stop it, there's that bar of and so I slid my finger over to see if there was going to be any, and I saw an image.
Yep.
And I just stopped and I let it play.
I didn't. I just I was sitting there. Kim by this time had come upstairs, and we were talking a bit as the credits were rolling, and I thought it was really strange because usually the screen will shrink down and go up to the corner, like and it didn't do that.
It tries to send you off to whatever show it recommends next.
And it didn't do that. I'm like, wait, what's going on here? Something's going on. So I just sat back and I let it play, and I'm like, what? And we get our first ever Star Wars post-credit sequence.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. Scene opens up and we get an exterior shot of the Bomar Monastery, also known as Jabba's Palace.
Under the Twin Suns.
Yeah. We get a interior shot of the staircase, and the scene plays out a lot like when Luke entered the palace back in Jedi.
Yeah,
with the shadows playing out on the wall, the guards running over and getting shot. But it's not. It's Fennec Shand. And she blasts a Gamorrean guard. She comes into the room, basically clears the entire room of all the goons, and we see sitting there on Jabba's original dais. On top of that, there's a throne, and what do we see but a very very older, big, heavier, slovenly,
Rotund.
yeah, Bib Fortuna.
Taking a cue from Jabba and just eating his way to criminal
I was gonna
empire.
say that, like the nod, the callback to Jabba, that he's this like slovenly thing, and
much more slug-like
Weequay
now.
guards.
yeah, Weequay guards. Yeah, I was actually going to point out we got another toy reference here. Bib is
Yes.
holding his Kenner action figure staff.
He is, and on the dais, the little skulls are there.
They
that
are.
the slaves are attached to from the toy, from the Kenner.
That's
toy.
right.
Yeah.
On the Andy pulled this out. I didn't realize it, but on the throne itself, there's heads on the arm rests. They're miniature
heads.
Rancor heads.
Nice.
Yeah.
There is some hutties on the back of the chair that I never got to yet, but I promise I will.
Okay, cool.
For our own,
Yeah, for our own purposes.
our own
And
enjoyment. Yeah.
as far as legacy, another Twi'lek slave.
Oh yeah, that's right. Who Fennec frees.
Yes.
So she blasts everyone in the room except for Bib Fortuna, and then Boba makes his way into the room. There's an exposition piece about, Boba,
My friend.
I thought you were dead. And without saying a word, Boba just kind of strides over, points his carbine, and just puts one through his chest. Like there's no, no acknowledgement of, like what did. What
No, he doesn't need to know what happened.
What did Bib Fortuna do to him, and to warrant that kind of like get out?
Well, he was sitting in his chair, quite frankly.
And that is what it works out to be. So putting a hole in him, Boba walks up, surreptitiously dumps him on the floor, and then takes a seat in the throne. Fennec Shand grabs a bottle of liquor off the back, sits down on the arm of the seat, has a big swig. Fade to black, and we get some text on the screen. The Book of Boba Fett, coming December 2021.
Wow.
So, and
so another emotion, all within about 5 minutes.
yeah,
A whole other emotion. My mind went, because we, at the very end of the last of our bonus episode last week, we said, curiously, no Boba Fett show was announced.
I know.
And that was the one that there was the most speculation about. So it was a little more misdirection. And how do you hide that stuff from us? And thank you for hiding it, because what a great reveal.
Yeah.
And I think this is that limited series where it was being rumored maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
I want to posit something else here for a minute, because you can't not bring this up. So first of all, I just want to say, in terms of where is it here? So I, in my notes, I'm like, Boba the crime lord? Like,
Hell yeah.
question mark. I'm like, after this whole season of The Mandalorian where, there's this, like, we get this depth of character about his code of honor that is more than we've ever seen before, where he's the good bad guy. You know what I mean? Like, I have a hard time believing that he's going to flip and become this ruthless crime lord, ostensibly taking over Jabba's whole organization. At the same time, though, having the resources of a crime syndicate at your fingertips definitely allows you to tell bigger stories. So from that perspective, it's cool, but I don't know if I like the idea of him being a crime lord.
You watched the Luke Cage stuff, Netflix and Luke Cage
I was
series?
just going to say that.
This is where season 3 was going with Luke Cage, which was right where the comics go with him, which is he's the ruler of the Magia in the comics.
Yeah.
But he's still Luke Cage, the superhero. So he's absolutely using the resources of a criminal empire
to fund
his superhero antics, if you will.
Good work.
I actually think that this is going to be his seat for the narration of what ostensibly will be the tale of Boba Fett. And you might even see some Daniel Logan stuff.
Yeah.
And you might even see the death of Boba Fett and exactly how Cobb Vanth got the armor. I think you might see a bunch of stuff like that.
Well,
I think this might just be the frame, the storytelling mechanism is him having a steady base of operations.
I just want to preface what I'm going to say with the statement. I fully agree that this is 99% likely a brand new, whether it's limited, miniseries or other event series, as I think Kathleen Kennedy and Disney, they actually referred to some of the stuff that's happening as event series or event projects.
That's right.
I am more than inclined to go that way, but I can't not bring this up.
Yes, I know.
So books, I say the Book of Boba Fett, right? Because that's what they're calling it. Books are arranged in chapters.
They are, sir.
Guess what else was arranged in chapters?
Yes, sir.
Every episode of The Mandalorian. So retroactively, are we basically? I have to ask the question. Did we just watch the Book of Din Djarin?
Yes.
And
the first book of Din Djarin.
Sure, the first book of Din Djarin. And is season 3 of The Mandalorian going to be the Book of Boba Fett?
Because
the airtime lines up with what they publicly said about the airing of season 3 of Mandalorian. And it doesn't mean that you can't have Din Djarin and everybody else along for the ride, but they become secondary, like Cara Dune, Greef Karga, Kuiil, and all those other characters. And now it's through the eyes of Boba Fett.
It certainly could have been what they've always wanted, but that they had to get there in a way that the fans wouldn't just go, "Oh, Boba
right."
Fett."
This
has been so organic and natural that I would accept. And who's to say that the like I said before, we have that Vizsla character from season 1 being a legitimate
he's a Vizsla
contender for the throne.
That's right.
We have the Princess of Mandalore now, a legitimate contender for the throne. We have Boba, who is ostensibly the son of Jango, who is the student of Jaster, who in Legends is the Mandalore, and Jango serves as the Mandalore. So you have another contender. And so it's easy to see that story being told still through the eyes of Din Djarin.
Yeah.
But having it framed as the Book of Boba Fett's the next chapter in The Mandalorian. Maybe the Mandalorian is, maybe he's not the man. Maybe it's.
Well, this is it. We have enough.
Spectrum thing.
We have enough Mandalorian characters in season 2 that, like I say, maybe seasons 1 and 2 were the Book of Din Djarin. Maybe seasons 3 and 4 will be the Book of Boba Fett. 5, 6, the Book of Bo-Katan.
It's entirely
6, 7, the Book of Sabine Wren. We have lots of different ways to tell stories and lots of ways to make the Mandalorian centric. We've said all along that the Mandalorian has to be central to everything, and ostensibly he was at the center of everything.
Yeah.
But we can take that character, shift him to a secondary role, bring one of our other Mandalorian characters forward, and the show still works as The Mandalorian. It's just a different Mandalorian.
In a very Game of Thrones way, where the chapters focus on different characters and you're telling the same story still.
All the speculation that we made and the jokey kind of like, haha, when we said that the show was the spiritual sort of successor, like this was the thing that spun out of those ideas for that Boba Fett series from like a decade ago. That's right. And we said, what if this is the literal passing of the torch? Well, turns out we might not be so far off the mark.
No, but at the end of this episode, moving into what we know has been called a season 3, in which they've moved into production for already. Right now, Din Djarin is the Mandalore.
Yes. Yeah.
And so there's going to have to be, even if it's the Book of Boba Fett, who maybe wants to be the Mandalore too, there's going to be some reckoning there.
There has to be some conflict there to solve that.
That's what's
Bo-Katan.
For a year, I'm going to have to play with action figures and figure the friggin' thing out.
Yes. And Bo-Katan is going to be central to that. And I have a theory on that as well. And I just want to touch on that. The first couple episodes after the Mandalorian covert was destroyed on Navarro, Din put some energy into like, there's even some mention about there being other Mandalorian coverts. So I just want to go back and I want to touch on specifically on that character, on the Paz Vizsla character that Jon Favreau played. And I'm going to put it out here. It's a very loose theory. There's nothing. I have no reason to think that this is real for any reason other than it's my own pure speculation, and it's part of the show that we like to do. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that character, Paz Vizsla, he survived the destruction of the Mandalorian covert of Navarro. Perhaps he and the Armorer even, and maybe the Armorer is sort of pulling the strings for him. But given what we know of that character just in that one episode, he's very much a child of the Watch. He believes in the way of the Mandalore. He really, like, look at the way he insulted Din Djarin about you take money from them and, you know, you skulk around down here, but then you openly trade with them. As a Vizsla, as pre-Vizsla's ancestor, I think that he is a great candidate to pose against Din Djarin for the throne of Mandalore.
Agreed.
To create the tension and the drama that we need. So Din Djarin can go ahead and he can lose the Darksaber to Paz Vizsla, creating an opportunity for Bo-Katan or Boba Fett to claim it at a later time. Which means that Bo-Katan, who I personally like her characterization. I think she makes a better ally than an adversary. And I don't want her to be an adversary to Din Djarin. So that works for me to maintain that relationship. And that's my thoughts on that.
I tend to agree, actually. There's a lot that's been set up, and there's a lot that is obvious, but there's so much that it's in the realm of speculation. And,
oh yeah.
And they've hit us with so many, like, how do you top this? Like, literally, what do you do now?
I don't know.
Like, you just jump the shark, and how do you? I don't know what you do to top this, man.
In the history of our show, best episode ever.
Best episode ever.
I got one more thing I want to bring up. It's a small point, and it's a small object, but let's not forget that the shift knob is still in Din Djarin's belt.
That's right.
And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When he gets a new ship, you can't tell me that thing's not going to go on a lever somewhere.
Lever or hang from the mirror.
Yeah, it's
something.
It's his connection to Grogu. It's how we started the show, and I'm sure through camera angles and camera trickery, we are always going to be reminded of Grogu through that device, and it may serve to bring Grogu back into the story at a later date.
You have not seen the last of Grogu, and we can rest easy in that, even if it is because it's nefarious and that he's too much of a source of revenue for Disney to just walk away from.
Well, okay, there is that. That's really superficial, but I also think that, there's that whole attachment thing, right? He doesn't want to go with you, but he just wants permission. I think he's going to come back. I think I actually said to Kim yesterday, and I'm going to put it out here now. This creates an interesting opportunity, and again, this whole Star Wars being like poetry and being repetitive. Does this not create a moment where Grogu becomes the Luke Skywalker character when Luke runs off to save Han and Leia on Bespin? So now,
100%.
Something happens to Din Djarin, and Grogu has a vision in the Force, and then he runs off to save his father, and then just never.
I'd love to see a teenage Grogu.
Yeah, and then just never goes back, and then they're reunited, and he's well trained, trained well enough in the Jedi arts that he just walks the path of the Mandalore and just happens to have Jedi training.
They literally peeled enough threads off the sweater that there was a million other stories they could tell for thousands more generations. So much. Yeah. Do we think that this... That's the importance of linking them, too, to the legacy characters, is to weave the legacy characters deftly in there so that there's these physical points of connection that you can that's how we kick off to the next level by having these little benchmarks.
Well, and like you say, though, it has to be done. It has to be organic. It can't be contrived. And turns out that, this whole, we spent so much time theorizing and arguing why it could be and should be, Ezra Bridger versus Cal Kestis, and like right down to, well, Cal Kestis has a working knowledge of how the stone works. And
we were right in there.
We convinced ourselves.
Yeah. Well, you recall that the very first time we started speculating about this, the logical conclusion for all of us was Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. And then we went, no, that's too on the nose.
Go that direction for so many of other reasons that we immediately just pushed it out of our heads. And I think that's what they were banking on.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think they were going to tell that big a story.
Yeah, neither did I.
Or connect Grogu that directly to the legacy character, because that puts him in their care. That puts him. He's off to meet Leia. He's going to be sitting in Chewbacca's lap now. Him and C-3PO are going to have arguments. There's like, you know what I mean? Like, he's just got adopted into the crew.
Yeah, for sure he has.
Right? If they were to make a 5th episode 4.5 or 6.5, Grogu would be a character in that movie.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And we're going to get novels about this now.
Well, yeah, novels and comics and all of the side.
A new Jedi Academy novel sort of thing going on with. I think you're going to explore the character of Luke Skywalker.
I guess. Speaking of novels, just because it's in the title, we can't rule out the possibility that the Book of Boba Fett is actually a novel,
that's very
and
true.
Not a show at all. Do you know what I mean?
It could be misdirection.
It's silly as it sounds. The Book of Boba Fett could quite literally be a book. You know, I'm not ruling that out, but
and then there's the also the connotation of the movie The Book of Eli, where he's the last holy man on the planet.
Yeah,
you know, he's the last righteous man in a world gone absolutely batshit mental.
Right.
That reference wasn't sort of lost on me either.
Oh, I think, and while we're on the subject, before we forget, Andy, you've got a reference for our Bib Fortuna character.
We do. Played by Lucasfilm sound designer Matthew Wood.
Yeah.
Who is best known for voicing General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. But
nice.
General Kenobi.
He also did a ton of voice work on Clone Wars.
Yeah, so I met him at a previous fan expo when he was just getting involved. Early seasons of Clone Wars, when Grievous made an appearance, and he was so. When I stepped up to his table to get the autograph, I grabbed the Grievous photo for him to sign, and he was literally laughing. And I don't mean he was laughing at me like, sucker, you're getting a... No, he was laughing like, I can't believe I'm part of Star Wars. Like, he was so just elated to be part of it. And like, without even me saying anything, he's like, oh, General Kenobi, you're a bold one, in voice, right? And I'm just like, this is so cool.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, so we have a year now before we get to revisit these characters, and I didn't dig deep to look at. Do we know any more dates for any of the other properties that were announced? Is anything coming between now and then?
Solidified yet? No.
Actually, I just saw one today. Streaming December 25th. Gallery Season 2.
Oh, that's
Making
great.
of Mandalorian Season 2.
Hey guys.
So Merry Christmas.
Should we do a gallery breakdown or what? There's always interesting things to talk about there.
I think that would be a good supplemental. And maybe let's that's going to be, it'll be after Christmas. So if that's December 25th, the first Saturday after Christmas, what does that look like? I'm just going to look at my calendar here.
That would be New Year's Day.
Oh, shoot.
How's your head going to be?
New Year's Day. New Year's Day is probably not a good idea for me.
Oh,
you're right. It is New Year's Day.
But Sunday.
No, it's Saturday. Saturday is the 2nd.
It is.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be okay.
Okay.
So we could watch it. Is it going to be the whole season, Andy? Are they all?
I think they might drop the whole season.
So last year they dropped them in component. They dropped like issues like episodes 1 and 2, and then they dropped 3 and 4.
Like a couple at a time.
They came out, yeah, we'll have to see. But we can certainly watch it all and then just contain our.
Yeah, we could do it as a single episode of all of the gallery episodes once they're all out, or we could like chunk them up into smaller bits. I think that might serve our conversation style maybe a little better.
Like, it might a 9th sort of recapping the whole everything up to now. Like,
I do think we should come back next week and we should do this again and talk about
to have our thoughts in order,
our highlights.
And I'm going to actually do exactly what you said earlier. Is I'm going to watch all 16 chapters as a fan now. Yeah. And less as a critic,
as an analyst.
And then I think I'd be really primed for an overall not a review, but just like here's it all in a nutshell, and here's how I feel about it, and here's how we're gonna move forward.
I think you just have a nice holistic conversation about the thing as a whole. And just maybe pick out some highlights and things that we really liked about it.
I'm sure there's going to be thoughts that bubble up this week about how it all, because it's
for sure there will be. Yeah.
It's like a happy little wound.
And all those other media guys are going to spend the rest of the week and coming weeks doling out their little tidbits and stuff, and hopefully
let them play catch up with us.
That's right. Hopefully they'll use us again. Of course, I'd be ignorant to think that we're the only ones that are hitting on the same points.
No,
but
we definitely are the
best. No bias there whatsoever. So, dear listeners, if you think that you'd like to hear us riff on the gallery episodes, hit us up on our social media. Send us an email over at Fandom Power 3. Let us know what you think. And I guess going forward, it's bittersweet, gentlemen. This has been 8 weeks of pure joy for me, even in the ones that weren't as enjoyable as this week's episode. But it's
been an incredible ride.
So much Star Wars to look forward to, and other properties that I think are going to warrant coming back to. And I'm really looking forward to taking Fandom Power in other directions with other properties. Like I said before, I'm really looking forward to doing the Masters of the Universe Revelations when that comes out for Netflix. I want to come back and revisit that. And certainly a few other things that I think will fit our conversation style nicely.
Super excited for the Willow project.
Yeah, me too. Love work, Davis. I can't, you don't get to see enough of him without creature effects on him. So I'm super happy to see him get something, a vehicle to keep him relevant, because he's a treat to watch.
Amazing.
All right, guys, that's it for me. Once again, super happy to be able to do this with you guys, and I can't wait to get back together and keep the story going. So, guys, until the next time, may the Force be with you.
Also with you.
All right. And I don't know what the way is anymore, but...
this is it. It's still the way, man. This is it.
All right. Until next time, my friends. Bye for now.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Fandom Power. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll be talking about another one of your favorite fandoms. Fandom Power is a Sawcast production.